Sarah Turner was the kind of woman everyone admired. She seemed to glide through life with effortless grace, her presence lighting up every room she entered. She always had a warm smile for her neighbors, never missing a chance to lend a helping hand at the school bake sale or organize a community event. Her home was always immaculate, filled with the joyful laughter of her young daughter, Emily. The two of them would spend hours playing games, reading stories, and making crafts together, their bond obvious to anyone who visited. Sarah worked as a respected manager at the local bank, where her colleagues admired her dedication and professionalism. She handled every challenge with calm determination. From the outside, her life seemed almost too good to be true. A beautiful home, a loving family, and a successful career. Her husband, Tom, adored her. Their marriage appeared strong, built on mutual respect and affection. Tom often surprised Sarah with flowers just to see her smile. Their family looked perfect, always sharing hugs and laughter. On weekends, they strolled through the park as a family. Emily would ride her bike ahead, her giggles echoing as the sun dipped below the trees, while Sarah and Tom walked hand in hand, content. Among friends, Sarah was the heart of the group. She was the one everyone turned to for advice, the one who remembered birthdays and always made people feel special. Their neighborhood was peaceful, the kind of place where everyone knew each other and trouble seemed far away. People often remarked on Sarah's calmness. Even when work was stressful or life threw challenges her way, she never seemed to lose her composure. She was endlessly patient with Emily, loving with Tom, and always kind to strangers, offering help without expecting anything in return. The Turners seemed truly blessed, safe and happy in their small, close-knit community. To everyone around her, Sarah's life was a quiet dream, a picture of happiness and contentment. But sometimes, what you see on the surface isn't the whole truth. Even the brightest smiles can hide shadows. Sometimes the happiest faces conceal the deepest pain, and the most perfect lives hide the darkest secrets. For Sarah Turner, the truth behind her perfect life would soon become impossible to hide. It was a normal morning, the kind that felt safe and predictable, wrapped in the gentle hush of suburbia. Sarah moved through the kitchen, making breakfast as she always did, the smell of toast and coffee filling the air. Emily, her daughter, packed her school bag, humming softly, her mind on the day ahead. Tom, her husband, left for work with a quick kiss on Sarah's cheek and a warm hug for Emily, promising to see them that evening. But when evening came, the house was quiet. Sarah did not return home, and the familiar routine was broken. Tom tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail, each unanswered ring deepening his worry. Dinner sat untouched on the table, plates of food growing cold as the minutes ticked by, the silence in the house growing heavier. Emily waited at the window, her small face pressed to the glass, eyes full of hope and confusion, watching for headlights that never appeared. Tom called friends, then the police. Panic spread quickly through the house, turning worry into fear. No one had seen Sarah after lunch. Friends and neighbors shook their heads, concern etched on their faces as they gathered outside. Her manager told the police she'd left work early, looking worried and distracted. No one knew why she'd gone or where she was headed. The small town, usually so peaceful, felt a ripple of fear for the first time in years. Whispers spread from house to house. How could someone like Sarah just disappear? The question echoed through the empty hallway, shadows lingering where laughter once lived. Detective Jack Mason arrived, determined and calm, ready to unravel the mystery that now haunted the Turner family. He searched the Turner house, looking for any clue. A forgotten note, a misplaced item, a sign that might explain Sarah's sudden absence. But he found nothing strange, No sign of struggle, nothing missing. Everything was in its place, except Sarah herself. The questions grew louder, echoing in every room. Where was she? Why had she vanished without a trace? The Turners' perfect life was shattered. Their faces, once full of joy, were now marked by worry, pain, and the fear of the unknown. The search for Sarah was only beginning. Friends, neighbors, and strangers joined together, determined to find answers in the darkness. Detective Mason walked the empty streets late at night, lost in thought. He had solved many cases before, but this one was different. There were no witnesses, no leads. Sarah's car was parked at the bank, her phone found in her office drawer. Her computer showed nothing unusual. Mason interviewed Sarah's friends and co-workers. All described her as happy, loving, and strong. No one noticed anyone following her or acting strangely. Days passed with no news. The detective felt the weight of the family's hope on his shoulders. He promised answers, but none came. Rumors started to spread. Some whispered that Sarah ran away. Others said she was taken. The pressure grew as the media arrived. Mason read every file again and again, searching for something he missed. Each day that passed, his frustration grew. He knew time was running out. The longer Sarah was missing, the harder it would be to find her. But Mason was not ready to give up. Not yet. One quiet night, Mason's phone rang unexpectedly. The voice on the other end was distorted, almost unrecognizable, but the message was clear. A tip that would change everything he thought he knew. Someone claimed that Sarah, his wife, had been secretly meeting a strange man in a dark car parked on a deserted street. The details were vague, but the implication was chilling. At first, Mason dismissed the idea. He shook his head, refusing to believe Sarah could be involved in anything suspicious. It seemed impossible, out of character for the woman he loved. But curiosity got the better of him. When he checked the security cameras near the bank where Sarah worked, he was stunned to see her getting into a black sedan late at night, just as the caller described. The man's face was hidden in the shadows, but Sarah's expression was unmistakable. She looked frightened, glancing over her shoulder before slipping inside. This single moment shattered Mason's sense of certainty. Determined to find answers, Mason began digging deeper into Sarah's life, searching for clues in her belongings, her emails, and her daily routines. He discovered that Sarah had withdrawn unusually large sums of money from their accounts in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, amounts that couldn't be explained by normal expenses. There were also late-night calls from her office phone to unfamiliar numbers, always after hours, always when no one else was around. The pattern was too deliberate to ignore. Mason wondered, why was Sarah hiding these things? What was she so desperate to keep secret? What was she afraid of? The fear in her eyes on the security footage haunted Mason, raising more questions than answers. Mason reached out to Tom, Sarah's closest friend, hoping for insight. Tom was shocked and confused, unable to make sense of the revelations. He insisted that Sarah never mentioned money problems or strange men. To him, she was the same caring friend she'd always been. Meanwhile, Emily, their young daughter, was left bewildered and heartbroken. Too young to understand the turmoil, she could only cry for her missing mother, clutching her favorite stuffed animal for comfort. The perfect picture of their family was beginning to crack, the foundation of trust and love eroding with every new secret uncovered. Secrets started to spill out. Hidden documents, unexplained files, and mysterious notes that hinted at a double life. Mason realized, with growing dread, that Sarah had a life no one knew about, a side of her that had been carefully concealed. The investigation no longer just about finding a missing woman. It had become a desperate search for the truth, for answers buried deep beneath the surface of their once perfect lives. Jason Daniels was, well, a powerful man in town. He owned several businesses and donated to local charities. You'd often see him in the newspaper, shaking hands with the mayor. But, behind the smiles, there were always whispers about his real business. Mason found records showing Sarah had met Jason several times in secret. They talked for hours in quiet corners of fancy restaurants. There were envelopes exchanged, always full of cash. It was, honestly, clear Jason was not just a friend. But what did he want from Sarah? The detective tried to question Jason. He was charming, but careful with his words. He said he only met Sarah to discuss a charity project. He denied any wrongdoing. But Mason saw lies in his eyes. He believed Jason knew more than he admitted. The shadow of Jason Daniels now hung over the case. Mason wondered how deep his secrets went, and whether Sarah had discovered something she should not have. Mason followed Jason for days. He watched him meet with men in expensive cars. He saw him hand over thick envelopes in dark parking lots. It was clear Jason was involved in something dangerous. But what did this have to do with Sarah? The detective found a hidden notebook in Sarah's office. It was filled with dates, names, and coded messages. Sarah had written, "For Emily. If anything happens to me, tell her I love her." Mason felt a chill. Sarah was scared. She knew she was in danger. Digging deeper, Mason learned Sarah tried to leave town once. She bought 2 train tickets, one for her, one for Emily. But something made her stay. Was she being watched? Mason realized the stakes were higher than he thought. Sarah's secret meetings and hidden fears pointed to something big, something worth killing for. The case grew more urgent. Emily began to receive strange calls at home. The caller never spoke, only breathed deeply. Tom started noticing cars parked outside their house late at night. Mason put police outside to watch over them, but the fear did not go away. Emily clung to her father, refusing to sleep alone. She drew pictures of her mother with tears on her face. The family lived in constant worry. Tom blamed himself for not seeing the signs. Mason felt pressure like never before. He promised to keep them safe, but he worried it might not be enough. Sarah's notebook led Mason to a warehouse on the edge of town. There, he found evidence of a crime syndicate, drugs, weapons, and lists of names. Sarah had stumbled onto something dangerous. She tried to protect her family, but now they were in the crosshairs. Every moment mattered now. Mason raced against time to keep Emily safe and find Sarah before it was too late. Mason finally confronted Jason Daniels in his office. He showed him proof: Sarah's notebook, bank slips, and photos. Jason's calm mask slipped. For a moment, Mason saw fear in his eyes. Then Jason smiled coldly and said, "You can't stop what's already begun." Later that night, Mason received an anonymous call. The voice told him where to find Sarah. He rushed to an old cabin in the woods. There, he found Sarah, alive but broken. She had been hiding, scared for her life and Emily's. She told Mason everything. Jason ran a crime syndicate. Sarah used her job at the bank to find out how he laundered money. When she tried to quit, he threatened Emily. In fear, Sarah disappeared, hoping to stay alive and protect her daughter. She never meant to hurt her family, but she saw no other choice. The truth was out, but the cost was high. Sarah's life would never be the same, and neither would her family's. Jason Daniels was arrested. but his powerful network remained. Many of his men walked free. The case made headlines, but the crime syndicate was too big to end in one night. Detective Mason felt both relief and defeat. He saved Sarah and Emily, but the danger was not gone. Sarah returned home, but she was changed. She and Tom tried to rebuild their lives, but trust was hard to find. Emily had nightmares, waking up calling for her mother. The community looked at the Turner family with sadness now, not envy. Mason visited Sarah often, haunted by the case. He wondered who else was hiding secrets. He knew that for every mystery solved, many more remained. Some questions would never have answers. Some wounds never truly healed. What if everything you knew was a lie? For Sarah Turner and those who loved her, the truth was a burden they would carry forever.